Welcome everybody. This is going to be a pretty fast and simple video, I say, before we talk for about 2 hours. But today we're going to be reviewing some main characters in anime and just listing them on a tier list based on our own criteria, whatever that may be. I am Fierce Aura, and this is Radiant Wave. Hi Wave, how you doing?
Hey guys, I'm Wave. Um, we actually did this tier list once before. We did end up having some technical difficulties, but I believe it was probably around like 50 something, and now we have 70 on the list. So at the end of the day, you guys are getting more content. Hopefully, you guys enjoy.
That's right. And some of my thoughts were definitely not together when we did that tier list. But Wave, you want to just start from the top left?
I guess we could. I mean, unless if you do want to just like jump around. I know.
Eh,
So there,
it's
both
fine.
of us have a couple different characters on this list that the other does not have any sort of like opinions on because we haven't watched the same shows. So
Yep.
every now and again, you're probably only going to hear one of us talking. Well, we could go ahead and grab maybe like a B tier to start us off. You know
Oh
what? I
man.
guess grab Lloyd, I suppose,
All right.
from Spy
Are you,
Family. He's bottom row from what I can see.
yep.
I'd say he's probably like a B.
B tier?
He's like
Okay.
solid. I mean, he's an enjoyable character to watch, but I mean, he's at least from what I've watched of Spy Family so far, he's not anything too like special when it comes to a
Yeah.
character.
No, he's definitely not. He's like, he's basic. He's very straightforward from at least where we are right now. He's got his own thing going on. We don't know too much about his past, really. But yeah, he's just all about the mission, really. It's I don't
I
know.
mean, he has a
Not
softer
a lot.
side, but
Yeah, he does. Very true. Anya definitely makes him more interesting as a character because if he didn't have Anya and Yor, he'd just be Spy Guy, I
yeah,
guess.
I mean, they bounce off of each other pretty well because it's
Yeah.
it's the group dynamic.
Yep. Yeah. He's good. He's good as a main character, even though I feel like Anya kind of gets more than
She steals the
Loki.
spotlight.
Yeah, she gets way too much shine to be honest. Like focus on Lloyd and Yor a little bit more, please. But that's just my opinion. Um, yeah, she gets a lot of spotlight. But yeah, I'm okay with B tier. That's fine with me. Have you seen Odd Taxi?
Yes, I have. That's why I put him on the list. I know we have a
Okay.
certain someone that'll probably be interested to see what we think.
Oh yeah. So I would put Odokawa probably in like A tier, maybe B tier, top of B tier. Because
Uh,
I think he's not really got a lot. Like internally, he doesn't. There's not much in the actual show that you get out of him until the
mm-hmm.
very end. But it is interesting to watch him do his thing and kind of think about what he's
Yeah,
thinking about. I guess
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
I
like
would.
very like deductive, kind of like investigative in a
Yeah,
way.
exactly.
I
C
think,
tier.
I mean, I guess if you want to put him in A tier, I'd be fine with it. I'm personally not like the biggest person when it comes to the show, but at least as a
Yeah,
protagonist, I think Otokawa is actually pretty solid.
I think he's pretty solid. But I'm just gonna put him slightly above Lloyd if that's because
All right, that's
yeah.
fine for now. I mean, we can always move it around later if we need to.
All right.
Hey,
So I'm just gonna.
if
Uh-huh.
let's say if we ever get to a point where one of us like just has like a chain of just multiple characters where the other person's not saying anything, then we could
Uh-huh.
probably jump around.
Sounds good. I'm just gonna knock this dude out real quick. This is Seiya from Overly Cautious Hero, and honestly, he's hilarious. But until the end of the show, there's like not much. You don't really get what is his thing, like why he is the way he is. So he's a very surface level, funny, comedic character until like that last little bit. He's got like some depth to him because you can really tell he cares, even though he acts like he doesn't care for most of the show. But those interactions are so like straightforward most of the time. You know there's something going on, but there's not a lot of actual story to expand on him until the end. So probably C tier. Um, yeah, I don't want to be too generous with him. All right, Giorno from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5. Probably a B tier, honestly. Giorno is the least, or one of the least interesting characters of the main cast of JoJo Part 5. He really gets carried by the guys around him. He does some cool things, but you can really just describe him as very determined and willing to make sacrifices to get to his goal. And that's probably the only way to describe him. Joseph Joestar, on the other hand, crosses multiple parts of JoJo, and the main character of Part 2, he is full of personality. He's very like strategic and not afraid to be underhanded to win, which is very rare, I think, in a protagonist. But he also does have a sense of like pride, where he, will stand up for the weak, and he's not, you know, totally a coward, even though he can be cowardly sometimes. And he kind of grows into this hero role as time goes on, and as he ages, he becomes more of a mentor to the other Joestars because he's one of the few that actually live past his story. He's more interesting than I would say most of the other Joestars are, and definitely more entertaining to watch. All right, Yuki Teru. I'm sure you have some thoughts on Mirai Nikki.
Uh, I feel like Yuki could probably be our first D tier.
D tier.
Um, he kind of just like coasts along. He doesn't really do anything as far as progressing the story. He kind
Yeah,
of just goes along with the flow all the way up until maybe like the second to last episode, and that's when he
yeah,
finally starts to kind of take things into initiative and start doing things on his own. But
yeah,
even then, I don't think that it's anything that's like greater than maybe some of the other characters on this list.
yeah. I would agree. He's very reactive. Like basically is just along for the ride for most of the story. And he's very frustrating to watch, and not in an interesting way. He's just frustrating. He does become much better later on as he realizes like the people around him are absolutely insane, and he has to do something or else he's gonna die. But it takes him a while to get there. Um, Yusuke, I am are going to argue for at least high A, if not S tier, because I feel like he, on strength of personality alone, makes the show better.
It's
Like
definitely been
he
a while since I've watched Yu Yu Hakusho. I mean, I could go for either. I guess it
okay,
depends on. I would say if he's S, he's probably like a low S for me, just
okay,
because I don't. I do understand that. Yeah, he goes through a lot of change. I actually do like it that he is the what's it called, the um like delinquent at the start, and then over time,
hmm,
already even I think like by episode 10, he already kind of starts to, you can see the like visual change in how he acts and how he kind of goes about interacting with other people. And
yeah,
then yeah, definitely by the end of the show, he is not really a changed person. He still has the same morals that he had back when the show began. But
hmm,
I mean, I definitely do appreciate him as a character.
yeah. I can see top of A, low S, just because, like you say, he's got a lot of change going on. Sometimes he can be, he acts like he's a one note character, and then people call him out on his crap, and he's, how he's just kind of being mean to put up a front, which I like quite a bit. Um, and then he kind of turns that around to being like protective. Um, and then in the last arc, even though it's like the weakest arc of the show, he kind of starts questioning not only who he is, but like if he even knows where he belongs at all, which I feel like is a fairly deep question to ask when you have like 10 episodes left, but I appreciate it was asked at all. So yeah, I would say
I
low
mean,
S, maybe.
yeah, that's fine by me. I was gonna say I do remember I guess in a way it's pretty good. He's a little bit more like nuanced in that he's has a lot more like broader range of expression compared to maybe even a lot of like modern characters where they're a little bit too like one note.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he's allowed to like experience all the ranges of emotion, which I is definitely rare in a shonen show. I feel like it's either like super happy or super sad, and that's pretty much like the main thing.
Oh,
All
speaking
right,
of super happy and then super sad, I could see someone in
yeah,
the green shirt towards the bottom that might fit that a little close.
yeah, for sure, definitely came to mind. But Haruhi, I feel like does not have that. I feel like she's pretty.
She's probably like a C, I feel like.
Yeah.
Maybe just because I mean, she's the one that is dictating the pace of the show, but at the same
Yep.
time, she's not really doing anything to like really be stand out.
Hmm.
I know like towards the end of season two, which is weird because I know also, I remember there's like something where people were saying that if you watch Haruhi, it was supposed to be like watched in like out of order,
Hmm.
which that gets a little crazy too. But I
Yeah.
know Haruhi is she does, like I said, she just dictates the order of the show, but then at the same
Hmm.
time, she's not really doing anything like plan. It's always just like on a whim in a way. And I
Hmm.
don't think that really speaks to being like, I don't know, pretty like
Yeah.
solid as a protagonist.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
mean, the
I would
show
say she.
itself is all about just having fun. So,
Yep. Agreed. And there's so much of the show happens like away from her awareness that I feel like even though she's not reactive, like she causes everything, she's not like though she is the impetus for everything to happen, it's not necessarily because she made the choice to make it happen. You know what I mean?
hmm
Because yeah, she is what she is, but yeah, I don't know. There's not like a lot there. All right. I know you've never seen Hajime no Ippo, but this man, Ippo is probably top of B, at least A, low A or top B, because he's the typical sports anime thing where he's starts in the bottom, doesn't know anything about his sport, and then he becomes slowly better and better, and like starts facing stronger people. But he's also got that real life aspect to him where he's not just concerned about just getting better and becoming the champion or whatever. Like he wants to know what it means to be strong, like as a person, like not necessarily as a boxer, which is what he is. And he wants to like encounter more people and learn about them and just kind of get more life experiences to broaden his idea of what strength is as a concept, not necessarily physically. And then he also like encounters a lot of problems with his family, where he's like, should I keep boxing even though my mom needs me to help her do run the family business? Like, is it really worth it to give my life up for this dream if it means hurting my family and that kind of stuff? He deals with a lot, um, and you really see him go from like um, just the bottom of the barrel to the top and come back around with all these emotions, and then his interactions with the other characters around him. He runs the gambit from student to best friend to teacher. He really has got a lot going on in terms of like human connection, which I feel like gives him a lot of strength as a character. So I would say B. He's not like the best. I feel like he's not the best character in the show in terms of entertainment value, which is why I would say B or low A. But he's entertaining, if nothing else. Actually, low A, because I feel like he deserves it. All right. Do you know anything about Luffy?
not at all. I mean, I guess in a way, isn't there's going to be like a new remake of One Piece at some point? So I guess at that
Hmm.
point, I'm probably just waiting on that. But
Yeah.
in reality, I probably should have started One Piece very long ago.
Well, I would Loki wait for the remake or read the manga. I would say Luffy's B. Like, he's interesting to watch, but there's not a lot going on behind those eyes. He is very straightforward, and I appreciate him for it because he is very dedicated, and he does face some challenges that make him reconsider like his goals and who he's supposed to be, which I appreciate. But the amount of content surrounding those moments is so large that his character kind of gets left behind, um, to in service of the world, which is I think One Piece's biggest problem, anyways. But he is still a good main character, definitely a good main character. Just not he's not does not compete with the higher levels. All right, I got like six. I got seven. I have a bunch I need to knock
in a
out.
row.
So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh
let's.
yeah. I can count out like that whole top row.
All right, you
I
want to
guess
knock?
yeah, you're almost on him. Grab the guy with the cigarette in his mouth. I guess yeah.
You got a cigarette in his
It's
mouth?
second row.
Second row.
Six over.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, he's from Shiki. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'd say probably put him in maybe like a B tier. Um,
Okay.
he's the doctor, and I mean, for those that don't know, Shiki's kind of more of like this like epidemic horror show about vampires, and
Mm,
he is kind of like the person representing the humans that are like being attacked. He's it's very like investigative. Um, he kind of is. That show itself is a bit of a slow burn. I think it's like 6 or 8 episodes before anyone
mm,
starts to kind of like realize what's happening. So I think that
yeah.
already kind of like takes down maybe some of the impact that the doctor ends up having. But at the same
Hmm.
time, once things kind of start rolling, he does end up being a bit more like proactive. In a way, though, if I do remember correctly, it's been a while since I watched it. He does kind of put other people at risk for his own actions, which
Hmm.
is a negative. And then also, I don't know, it is kind of like this like he's very human. There's points in the
Hmm.
show where he's kind of selfish and that he would kind of go out of his way to like protect certain people, but then other people are kind of thrown aside. So I'd say he's maybe
Yeah.
like a B tier. Maybe even if we're gonna rank him, maybe put him. I mean, I guess we could put him above Lloyd, unless you think maybe he's better than the JoJo.
Honestly, he's probably better than the JoJo
All right.
because Jorno's. I don't know, man. He's interesting, but he's just like his buddy. Bruno is the main character of Part Five, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know.
I guess if you want, well, yeah, you could do like one or two, and then maybe grab like Kaguya at the end of the list on row
Yeah,
one. We can talk about her real
sound
quick to break it up.
sounds good. I'm gonna put Hay in C tier because I'm gonna put him at the top of C tier. He is from Dark in the Black, and his name is actually Chinese, not Japanese. But he is living in Japan. It is an anime. Um, Problem with that show is it's got several seasons, and every season is vastly different from the first one. And the first one is where he's really good as a main character. He's kind of like a Batman type character where he's got like this vendetta kind of thing related to how the powers he got and everyone else got destroyed life around him. Well, not even really a personal vendetta. He's just kind of he's this. I guess he's kind of like a hired gun in a way. He works for an organization. Problem is that the nature of the show is that everyone who got powers also lost all human like emotion. So they essentially turn into psychopaths where they kind of or sociopaths where they live for themselves and nothing else. Um, and the show wants you to believe that he is also one of those people for a long time, but because of the special nature of what happened with him, he does have emotions. They're just kind of buried, kind of far down. Um, Problem is the second season and the after that. I don't even know if I finished the fourth season. He kind of his character kind of just gets thrown away by the wayside for a while. Yeah, and it kind of just yeah it just destroys what the first season built up. Yeah. Hey, he's like Batman. but Chinese, I guess. I don't know. It's tough.
Does he have a whole like host of gadgets that he can use?
He does have gadgets. Yes, he's very Batman-y. He's got a mask and he appears out of nowhere in the dark, takes people down. They're terrified of him. Um, I got that from a YouTube comment under one of the openings where it said, if you need a reason to watch this show, Chinese Electric Batman, and it is probably
Nice.
the most accurate summary of the show. Yeah. Anyways, it's also interesting for them to have a Chinese main character in a Japanese anime. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He was cool. This is my boy Yo from Shaman King. Yo is like probably above Lloyd, I think. I would put him above Giorno. He's he's less interesting than his brother, who's the main villain. But he is interesting in himself, where he's one of those detached, like very Zen characters, where he doesn't really react to a lot of things unless they make him happy. But over time, as he gets exposed to more and more tragedy, he really starts like becoming more of a active character and more like willing to take risks and to make changes in service of the future. But yeah, it's I wouldn't say he's the most interesting character or anything. But all right, you want to go for Kaguya? What do you think?
Um, I don't know. Like in a way, I almost question if she is the main character of the show. I mean,
Yeah.
the show is named after her at least, but I feel like she's probably where you're hovering over probably like a C tier.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
in a way, it is because she like the show is very much the dynamic between her and the student council president, and
Mm-hmm.
how they bounce off of each other and kind of act and react to one another. I guess in
Mm-hmm.
that way, we could say that she is pretty like prominent as far as pushing the story forward. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched season three. I think I watched only like one or two episodes, and then I ended up seeing some spoilers as to like how the show kind of ends. So that's kind
Mm.
of put me off. Um,
Oh man.
I think you know, yeah, I want to say she still probably has a C tier. It's not like there's any sort of like depth. I don't think she really goes through any sort of like big amounts of like growth in a way. I guess
Okay.
maybe to her like demeanor, but compared to like a lot of other characters where they maybe experience some sort of like intense sadness or something like that, Kaguya
Mm-hmm.
is pretty like normal in that regard.
I want to
So
at
I'd say
least put her
she's probably like you could maybe
next to
put her
Lloyd.
above like Haruhi, I guess.
I
Or
want to
do
put
you
her
think
next to
she really
Lloyd.
is B tier?
Yeah, at least based on season three and some of the backstory, I would at least give her like a B tier, just because
All
it's
right.
kind of there is this not really an intense sadness, like not on the level of death and war and things like
Yeah.
that, but it's like this intense loneliness that's built up over time because of her father and like
Mm-hmm.
her nature as a
Oh,
super
okay. So
rich
it sounds like things get
heiress.
serious.
Yeah, I would say it gets pretty serious because you get more revealed as to why she is the way she is because it's how she's very standoffish and she's like no one's allowed to get near me.
Well,
I'm the Ice Queen type
Well, yeah,
deal.
even season one where the OP like says, okay, whoever admits to being in love first ends up being like the victim in a relationship.
Yeah, but it's almost like I don't know. At least in the way I feel like it's laid out later. It's like she's not allowed to to make decisions about her relationships and things like that.
It's like kind of like a rich family kind of deal, probably,
Yeah, where it's
where it's
like,
like,
oh,
okay,
you
you
have
can
to.
only.
Yeah, I
All
would say
right,
so.
yeah. I mean, I'm fine with bottom of B tier then for now.
Okay. All right. Let me throw Ueki up here. Ueki is C tier, probably below Hay from what I remember. He likes recycling. That's basically the whole show. Is he his power is to turn trash into trees, and then he hits people with the
Huh.
trees. But he's very active. He just he does what he wants, and he's not afraid of making sacrifices as long as those sacrifices are his own. He makes the decision to save people despite no matter what kind of cost it costs him. So I would say he's interesting in that way, but it's kind of a kids show. It's really not. There's not that much there, I would say. I mean, there's probably more than I remember, but would not say it's that deep. He does go through some suffering, but yeah. The Law of Ueki, if anyone wants to go watch a guy turn trash into trees. It's pretty good. All right. Um, this is Nerorion from Nerorion no Mago, which is like the night parade of the rise of, I forget what they call it in Japanese. Japanese they call it the grandson of Nerorion, but in English they call it the rise of the Yokai clan, which is very different. But he's kind of like this dual protagonist because he's got his human form and his demon form, and they have totally different personalities, which I think naturally gives him a little bit more interest than at least maybe Haruhi, because like you get two characters in one if you want to count them as the same character, kind of like Sukuna and Itadori, but his demon form isn't evil; he's just different. Um, but that show got canceled like halfway through. It was pretty good. I just don't think there was a lot going on in him personally to make him interesting. So I would say maybe middle C tier. All right. You want to do
We could break it up with someone else. Let me grab, well, I haven't watched Free Run really either. Grab the guy from Haikyuu, the volleyball guy.
okay,
Talk about
Hinata?
him, I guess. Yeah, I'm not too good with names. I want to say he could probably be like a B tier as well.
hmm
I don't know, man. Unless if you want to put him in a C tier, he's kind of almost very standard. I mean, he's kind of like the
hmm
typical like energetic guy that wants to do good and improve himself. But at the same
Yeah.
time, what other athletes don't do that?
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, I think he's probably one of the most basic of the sports protagonists, but even then he's got like a lot of growth going on. Just because of the
Mm-hmm.
way the show kind of works. And he does kind of change from like super simple to kind of understanding that life is not like all sunshine and rainbows. Like, not everyone achieves their dreams when they set out to play a sport for their life. So I like that they make him face that reality at least, and he kind of suffers through that a little bit. But yeah, I wouldn't say he's too deep as a character.
You know what? Now that
But
we talk about it, do you think he's maybe like a C tier, or you want to keep him in B?
I'd put him. I like him at less than I like not
Kaguya.
Haru, Kaguya. Yeah, I would put him at top
All
of C
right.
maybe, or maybe I haven't seen all of Haikyuu yet
Haikyuu.
because the movie just came out and I haven't gone to see it. But I maybe put him behind
Yeah,
Hay. I don't
typical
know.
anime movies.
Yeah, Hay's got a little bit more going on. Even though he does kind of just fall off as a character. When he was doing stuff, it was more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. This is Evangeline from Birdie Wing. It's a golf anime, and it's pretty much only got girls in it. Highly recommended. Uh,
Sounds very cultured.
it's very good. It's weirdly super good. It's like if you played golf for the mafia, and it's hilarious.
Oh,
But she's pretty interesting. She's got like she doesn't have her memories from when she was a child, so she basically just goes by the name that her adopted family told her they were given. Like they were told that was her name, and like the story is mostly her rediscovering herself and giving more of her life um, over to her passion, which is golf. Um, and her relationship with this girl that she meets who's a professional golfer in like the regular world, whereas Evangeline was always, you know, underground golfing illegally. So yeah, I would say like maybe bottom of bottom of B. I actually put her above Kaguya, to be honest, right now. There's more emotionally going on with Eve, probably just because her show is over. It's just the ending of the show kind of ruined it for me a little bit. Not ruined it, but it
Mm-hmm.
took a little bit of the power away from the rest of the show. Yeah. Anyways, all right.
And we still have
You
like the
want to?
whole top row. That's all yours.
All right. Let me just knock out like six of these real quick. Haruhi. Haruhi's a very fun protagonist to watch. She's very like she's deeper than you think she would be. Bottom of B tier. Vash above Luffy. He's more interesting. His pacifism and like his relationship with knives and the suffering he goes through in order to deal with people just in general, because his world is not pacifist at all, is interesting. Jolene, better than Giorno. She's more active. She has a lot more interesting relationships going around because she meets her own father, which is pretty rare for the Joestars. And she kind of hates him, kind of loves him, and it's kind of hard for her to deal with that initial connection for a while. And watching them kind of grow a little bit over time, and her grow around all the other people in the prison with her because it's set in a prison is pretty interesting. And yeah, I would say she's pretty good. Um, this is Josuke. I would say he's between these two. He's pretty good as a Joestar protagonist. He's active, but the problem with this part is that the bad guy is kind of the main character, it feels like. And then he kind of loses a little bit of shine because the one of the Joestars from a previous part comes back around and kind of takes a little bit of that spotlight away from him. But he's like a caring person, and he wouldn't let his friends come to any harm. He's pretty good as a character. Uh, this is uh, Jotaro. He's when he's the main character, he's not interesting at all. Like part three, the part he's in is probably the worst part when it comes to like his character because he's just like the Terminator. I don't know if you've ever encountered a character where like their whole job is just to defeat bad guys. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's him. That's him. And then every other part after that where he's not the main character, he's way more interesting. Like he's becomes more of like a detective character, and a caring father. Like he
So
gets
he's
a
allowed to
lot
like
more.
relax and see like a
Yeah,
different side of him.
exactly. Like he doesn't have to be the powerhouse, so they kind of let him be more, even though he's still the strongest character in those parts. They let him like do other things, which is interesting. Um, yeah, I would say bottom of B tier as a main character. He's probably I'm gonna take him down to be honest. No, because I put Joseph so high because of his interactions with other parts. I'll leave I'll leave him at least at the bottom of B.
Uh, if you want,
Yeah,
we could break it up and grab the guy from No Game No Life.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
Shiro.
he's top row number 4. Yeah,
Is his name Shiro? No, Shiro's the girl.
Shiro's the girl.
What's his name? Can't remember
I
his
think
name.
he's funny. He does
Yeah,
push the narrative forward with. I mean, it's very like isekai, so he kind of has that like almost like main character syndrome where he thinks the world revolves around him. But the
Yeah,
same way, it kind of does in No Game No Life,
it
and I think
does.
that's why people like the show is because it's like so just like upfront with being corny, but at the same time being cool. Even
Yeah.
then, I mean if anything, probably put him like top of C tier, I guess.
Yeah, I would say top of C
Especially
tier.
since the anime, everyone always talks about No Game No Life being the anime that got cut short and was never continued. So
Yeah.
as someone that has not read the manga, I think
Yeah.
you can only put him
I
so far.
I would agree. He's only got like 12-ish episodes to grow
Yep.
as a character,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very entertaining to watch, but there's not a lot there until, I guess towards the end again. Um, but yeah, he's like wickedly entertaining to watch, so I would give it to him. All right. Have you seen Dead Man Wonderland?
No, I have not. I have watched
Okay.
Zombieland, or
Oh,
I thought
Zombieland
for a second it
Saga.
had Wonderland in the name.
It's not Wonderland? Oh, it did. Oh, okay. Hmm. I would give this character less credit than Yukiteru, to be honest. Like he is the same character, just in a different situation. He is not active at all, and basically gets carried by another light-haired girl who's obsessed with him. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's basically it's the same guy. I
Hmm.
honestly cannot even remember his name. He's just yeah. To be honest, though, I think he deserves a little bit more credit than Yuki because at least Yuki kind of had a little bit going. Like he had, I don't know, he had a little bit more given to him. This guy just had his whole life torn apart and got thrown in prison with a bunch of crazy people on death row. So yeah, I feel bad for him. Um, Honestly, this is the worst show star. So maybe above him. I don't know. His interactions with Dio are interesting, but there's not a lot going on. Yeah,
All right.
I don't know. You want to knock out another character?
Um, grab. I guess next to Gintama, Violet Evergarden. So she's top
Oh
row.
yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Hmm.
I don't know. I remember a lot of people saying like Violet Evergarden was like very like thought provoking, and
Hmm.
I think more like for the most part, I feel like Violet Evergarden she is another one of those characters that kind of just goes with the flow in a way. I mean, the whole point is that she's like a soldier that
Hmm.
is now having to like adapt to like common life, outside of the war zone, and it's kind of like she does grow as a character throughout I believe it's like 12 episodes or so. I haven't watched the movie, but even then, she still kind of is like a little too, what's the word, where she's like she requires people to tell her kind of what to do in certain
Mm,
circumstances. Um, so I'd almost say she is maybe closer to like an end of C tier, if not maybe. Well, I don't think she's a D tier, but I don't know. It feels like she has very like a minimal amount of growth throughout the time of the anime, to where I think
gotcha.
as a protagonist, she's not really that strong.
Hmm. Okay. I honestly wouldn't have expected that, considering how much praise the show gets. Okay. Uh, I'd put her above Seiya at least.
Uh,
She's pretty one note
all
for a
right.
while. Um, all right. This is Ikta Salork from an anime I recently watched called Alderman in the Sky. My dog is losing his mind. I'm sorry,
And I
viewers.
can hear him.
Hi, buddy. You're okay. Lay down. Lay down. I can cut this out, or I can leave it. Yes, what do you think about him, huh? Yeah, he's pretty mid, huh? Yeah. No, he's actually really good. For an anime that has so few episodes, they focus a lot on him and his like state in the show, as a like one of the few people who's not obsessed with war. But he gets dragged into it, and he's like a reluctant genius. I don't know if you've ever seen Naruto, but he's like Shikamaru. He does not want to be there. All he wants to do with his life is like live a leisurely, relaxing, boring life on like a farm or something. Just kind of like chilling. But he's a tactical genius, so he gets drafted. Um, yeah, but he really goes through a lot. He deals with a lot of the horrible aspects of war and like the ugly fact that you have to fight people you may have known before or love even, and how to fight in a way that's not, pure evil, even though war is never good. Um, his whole goal is like minimize casualties, try to make sure that the enemy's going to give up before we even have a fight, that kind of deal. It's very interesting to watch him go, like make his way forward through the ranks, and his interaction with one of the other main characters, his childhood friend, who is very much the opposite and actually is very dedicated to her sta- status, I guess, to her status as a knight, is yeah, it's interesting. I would put him above Jotaro probably, which is gonna people are gonna crucify me for that, but whatever. Who cares? All right, Emma, you want to do Emma? Did you watch Promise Neverland?
Um, you watched season one at least, right?
Yeah, I watched season one. I didn't go any
Or no?
further. Yeah.
Do you remember, or what would you have to say first? Because I mean, I can speak a little bit more because I did watch the Abomination. That was season two.
I would say I like her because she's an active character. Like she really pushes the plot forward. Um, but I think, at least in terms of like depth, she's kind of just like she loves the people around her and gets sad when she sees, the people around her die. It's like, yeah, well, so does everyone else. Like, I don't think there was that much going on, at least in season one. It was entertaining to watch her do stuff, but it wasn't like I wasn't wondering what she was thinking. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that was my
I
thing.
think she's actually a little bit should have a little bit more credit in
Okay.
that she's not really like the mastermind. I guess especially in season one. Season two they do split off the
Hmm.
main, well, because like the main three older kids, where there's only two of them, and then one of them kind of gets split off from the rest of them. Emma is kind of made to be the leader of the group, even though, well, even so, I would say she's like a solid enough character stuck in kind of like a bad show, because in
Hmm.
a way she does kind of do that thing where she is a little bit too like kind and a little too forgiving in like a world that's otherwise very unforgiving. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, especially towards like the latter half of season two, she doesn't really make the brightest of decisions. So I would say,
Hmm.
like, in a sense, you could probably put her as like a middle of C tier kind of character.
Middle of C
If
tier.
anything, we can maybe put her in B tier actually. And I guess she is kind of forced to do, certain things that other characters in C tier haven't had to do. So in that way, you could probably put her like bottom of B, I guess.
Bottom of B. Okay. Acceptable.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
definitely can
just
see
like
her
solid
growing.
enough.
Yeah. All right. This is Shiroe from Log Horizon, which I would recommend to anyone who likes isekais. It's an older one, and it sets up a lot of the tropes that other shows use. But he's like, imagine you're an isekai protagonist who, instead of being, I don't know, Superman, he's like Batman again. It's like Lelouch if he was a isekai protagonist. He's very but he's very kind. He's a very kind character, but he's like manipulative. He's like a mastermind, tactician type character. I would say he's probably. I mean, I like Ita a little bit more because he has to deal with a little bit more of the horrors of war. He's got more of like he goes through a little bit more of the gambit of emotions. Whereas I feel like Shiroe is. Not quite there, at least in season 1 and 2. I haven't finished season 3. I would put him top of C, below Emma probably. Yeah, he's a good character though. All right, have you watched any of Frieren?
Only the first episode, so if you want me to rate a character completely off that, I mean, I guess I could say my initial impressions is that I could tell that she is supposed to be this like cold-hearted individual that kind of doesn't really care because of the fact that she lives so long. So she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really get attached until after the one dude dies, and then she kind of realizes, oh wait, I should probably try and cherish these kinds of memories. Even then, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I can't really base too much off of episode one. So why don't you give like the further breakdown?
So I would say your assessment is correct, and I would say it's a really well written show in terms of like the flashbacks are used very precisely, like when they need to happen to show you what Frieren is feeling as she re-experiences these situations that she's lived through before with her previous party, which is the hero who passed away, and the party themselves because they are also important, but mostly the hero is the one that made an impression on her. Yeah, so I think like it's not only because she lives so long, but it's also because like the at least the one of the initial connections she makes is human, and then she loses that person, and because she lives so long, she never like her awareness of time is kind of skewed towards like the hundreds of years rather than the years. So it's almost
Yeah, the
like
decades.
yeah, she doesn't think about relationships because she's like, oh, I got all the time in the world to you know talk to people. Time just passes her by. She's not aware of it. But yeah, she definitely is less emotionally mature in that way. Because she does have her moments where she's like really happy or childishly mischievous, but otherwise she's fairly, straight faced. I think my main problem with the show is her character has like a deep connection with her master who teaches her magic. And there's like a massive gap in time between that and the hero. And you would think like it would have a little bit more of an effect on her because that person was so important to her that
Mm-hmm.
she would have opened up to the hero a little more, and not only after he died would she start opening up. That was the only thing that kind of struck me as odd. But I guess it really just could be chalked up to like she wasn't ready. I guess I don't know. Um, but in terms of like interesting character dynamics and like watching her grow as a person, I would at least put her above most of the guys in B tier, to be honest. I would put her
Yeah, fair
below
enough.
Vash because Vash has a lot of the same things going on that she does, where he lives a long time, but he's it's not like he's emotionally stunted in the same way, but it's more like he's careful because he he's very aware of how fragile the world is around him, and he cares for it so deeply um, that watching people take advantage of that and him struggle with his own beliefs is more interesting to me than watching Frieren kind of learn to be a person. You know, yeah. You want to tell me about uh,
Miss
Miss Kobayashi?
Kobayashi.
Yeah.
I guess so. I mean, it's a slice of life show. There's like some action scenes in it to break things up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kobayashi, I mean, show's named after her. Everything does
Mm-hmm.
kind of revolve around her. And she does do, actions to, help out the other characters throughout the show. Even though, so she's like kind of, your everyday, ordinary, like just person that goes into work in an office every day and then comes home to all kinds of craziness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I feel like she could probably be like in the same vein as like Lloyd in a way, to where she's decent enough, but at the same time she is reliant on like bouncing off of all the other characters that are around her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I can accept that. I know nothing about this show except dragons.
Yep, lots of dragons.
Yep, dragon maids, S tier deck. At some point. At some point it was.
Maybe they're
It
throwing all
always
the
struck
biz
me as
deals.
interesting how popular that show got with girls. Like it felt more like a guy focused show, but I guess it is all
Hmm.
women. So,
It is
anyways.
very chill, and it is what's it called? A I already forget the name. The same studio that did Haruhi and Clannad and all
Oh,
that.
okay.
Oh, Kyoto Annie.
Kyoto Annie. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyoto
So
Annie
it's kind of
is.
riding off of their popularity in a way, but
Huh, okay. Interesting. Um, so this top left character is Soleta Mercury. She's from the latest Gundam called The Witch from Mercury. And she's, at the beginning, she's less interesting than the characters around her because she's just kind of like gung ho. She's like super happy about everything. She's like, oh my goodness, everything is amazing. I love life, blah, blah, blah. She's like a country bumpkin who's kind of moved to the city, I guess is the best way to explain her, even though it's space. So there's not really a country, it's more like a planet. Um, yeah, but I would give her a little bit more credit because Gundam is very good at kind of throwing their characters into various situations and pulling like what makes them who they are out, um, like why she is the way she is and what the flaws about it that you may not have seen before were. Because she's so gung ho and like she's very dedicated to her, or not her family but her mother and what her mother taught her. She kind of she's very Gon like, where she kind of just does that to the at the expense of everything else. Because you know how Gon is like, he just kind of focuses on what he likes and what he wants to do, and then everything else, even if people are like dying, he is just on that road. He's not going to stop. Which is, when you initially see him, you're like, ah, yes, he's just like a determined kid who just wants to achieve his dreams. But no, he's actually kind of a little bit of a psychopath. Um, I would say she's kind of similar in that she's got that very much Terminator, keep walking forward and do everything you can, even no matter what it is, to protect people that you care for, even like despite the moral consequences, which you wouldn't expect. But there's not only that, there's a big twist that comes around through her character later. I don't want to spoil it because it's a really good show and you should all go watch it. But I would put her above, honestly, most of these characters. I would put her above Odokawa. Maybe not above Luffy because Luffy's got a lot more time on the screen and he's a very entertaining character to watch. Like he's 90% of One Piece. Um, but in the time you get with her, interesting. All right, Conan, C tier, maybe B tier, because he's got 1,000 episodes and he does not change at all. He's entertaining to watch, but my goodness. Actually, I'm gonna put him lower. I'm gonna put him above Jonathan. All right. Have you seen High School DxD?
Busto. Yes.
Boostle.
So I think season 3. I watched the first 3 seasons, and then
Same.
didn't watch the new remake version in season 4.
Me, me neither.
Um, or I think I watched like the first episode and then I like cut it because I was like, okay, yeah, this is completely different.
Yep.
I don't remember that much, to be honest. I know his harem protagonist. I mean, we do have a couple other of those on the list.
True.
I remember he's solid enough. He is kind of like stereotypical, like, I'll stand up for others kind of deal. And he's
Yeah.
like a little bit too, like, I'm Mr., macho man, where I could do
Hmm.
everything. But I don't know. Yeah, I think he's probably, yeah, somewhere in a C tier.
Okay. I'd put him. Nah, I'd put him at the bottom of C tier. To be honest.
You
I
would?
feel like he's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. He's yeah, I don't know. He's entertaining to watch at least. Issei is his name, but
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I get more of a kick out of the dragon saying boost than I do his entire character. So C tier, but
Ouch.
uh, it's just so entertaining, man. That voice is so good. But he is voiced by Kaji Yuki, which is or Yuki Kaji, who voices Eren Yeager. So that's funny.
Oh,
It's very
yeah. So
funny.
on one side of things, he's trying to conquer the world, and on the other side, he's all he's doing is just trying to find, you know, like the biggest harem of girls.
Yep, basically. I did appreciate like how much he actually cares for people, but that's kind of
Yeah.
expected, you know.
Yeah, I do remember like end of season two, season three being more serious in a way.
Hmm.
Maybe we aren't giving him too much credit. I mean, we could probably put him at least above like Haruhi, but yeah, I remember it's still not like too crazy.
I would honestly leave Haruhi where she is, at least. I don't
Oh,
know. I don't want to give him too much. I feel like he's just kind of entertaining, but he's not. I don't know.
yeah, fair
Not a lot
enough.
going on. This is Narufumi from Rising of Shield Hero. Season one is really good. It's very solid. It's an isekai. Um, but I would only give him like maybe he's either at the top of C or maybe the bottom of B. He might well, actually no. I'll leave him below Shirei. I feel like Shirei is at least a. That is an interesting question. I'll put him above Shirei. Narufumi's got more of the tragic type of character development at first, where he kind of turns it around through his own hard work and will. He does have a broken ability, but he kind of has to do the work to make it good. Like it's not just good naturally. He really does work very hard to get to the point he is. And then he kind of just uses that power for good, which is I feel like to be expected, but also when you see the people around him, you're like, man, if I was in his situation, I would not care a bit for these idiots, especially considering some of them, dude, try to get him like killed. Um, he's a nicer man than me. But I don't know. I could not get I have not finished. I'm not going to say I can't finish it, but I have not finished season 3, so I don't know where he's at. But there's not too much going on besides his like strength of will and his ability to like bounce back from despair. So yeah, basic shonen protagonist stuff where he kind of goes from like pretty happy to wants to die to back to pretty happy. I don't know. Yeah, not that much going on. This is Sung Jinu from whatchamacallit from good lord, this name
Gintama.
from Solo Leveling. Sorry, I was gonna do this guy first.
Oh,
He's people. I'm just gonna tell you right now, he is way overrated. I'm sure he gets more interesting later, but right now, all he is a guy who's got a broken ability and he's just working hard to make it more broken. He does suffer a little bit, and he's entertaining to watch, but there's not a lot of character there. So I'd maybe put him above the No Game No Go Life guy. That's about it. All right. So tell me about this character.
it's kind of interesting. They lined them up perfectly because they're both from the same show. So Higurashi. I guess grab the
Oh,
dude first with the
okay.
brown hair. So
Yep.
fourth. So he is Keiichi. And so
Keiichi.
Higurashi is like a mystery show mixed
Mm-hmm.
with horror. So like
Mm-hmm.
the first half of the show, we're seeing things through his view, like perspective, and he is. I mean, it's kind of interesting because he's the new guy in town. He moves into the village of Higurashi, and he gets to
Mm-hmm.
kind of get like accustomed to all of the different things that are in like the small village. Um, he kind of like learns about all like the different like mysteries and how like the ranking of like power throughout the village with all the different like families. And
Hmm.
I don't know, I feel like he's probably like somewhere in the middle of like B tier.
Okay.
Maybe put him uh maybe around where like Otokawa is, if not maybe
Okay.
like above or under. He has a lot of like growth in the way of the whole point is like while we're in his perspective, he starts to like not trust those around him because of
Mm-hmm.
the things that start to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then by like closer towards the end, while we're in that second character's perspective, he kind of has to like understand that he can trust the friends around him with what he knows and ask them questions and stuff like that, to where he has to like be able to rely on people and just kind of tell them who he is and have them accept him for who he is. So I think
Gotcha.
he's a solid enough character.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then the
All right.
second character is going to be Rika. So she's the purple hair girl, and she
Mm-hmm.
is the more so the main character. She is through the second point, and the whole story of Higurashi is that every time some sort of bad event happens, it's kind of
Hmm.
like this Steins Gate kind of thing where we loop back in time to the start of things and you see things play out in a different way. So
I see.
Rika is like the only person that sees all of the different timelines and what happens. So she ends up
Mm-hmm.
having to kind of fight against trying to get to the good ending.
Mm-hmm.
And she has her growth as well. She has that kind of like moment of like, okay, well, how many times have you gone into the past to try and like reset things to get
Mm-hmm.
to a good outcome, and kind of being to that point where you're at the breaking point, you want to give up, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously she doesn't. So I feel like
Okay.
Rika could be, well, what, we put Keiichi there. You could put her. We are starting to have a pretty loaded B tier. I guess we could start putting characters in A. We could put Rika in A, I guess.
Yeah.
Bottom of A
Real life
tier.
visual novel protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put her above. Uh, honestly, I'd put her. I'll put her above. At
Oh,
least him. Um, Ippo, a real life visual novel protagonist. Iki, is her name? Hmm. That's interesting. She can see the timeline. That's crazy. I feel like there's a
well, they call it
superhero who can do that.
loopers.
Loopers. There you go. Hmm. Okay. All right. I'm down. That's interesting. All right. I'm just gonna. Let me just take Gintoki here
Casually
and
throw.
just look, man. Gintoki's goaded.
No, like I said, we're getting a little bit of a bloated B tier, so we
Hey,
need to get some
man.
of the higher ones.
I'm gonna put him above Yusuke to be honest. If I'm just telling y'all right now, Gintoki is one of the best anime protagonists ever in terms of entertainment value. In a comedy anime, you would expect the main character to be kind of funny, and then like all the other characters around him to like have their own shtick that makes them funny. Like they have their own jokes, and you expect the jokes to come from them. But he is so consistently funny by himself and with everybody else that it will blow your mind how well written um, this anime is as a comedy. And then you'll see like this loner dude slowly build up these characters around him and start caring for them. And you learn about his past and why he is the way he is. And then he has to interact with all the people from his past. And it's just it gets so emotional. And by the end of it, you're going to feel not only his like the depth of his personality in terms of how much he cares for people and how much he's gone through, um, but also like how each individual relationship he has with everybody is different. Like he cares for one like a sister, or one like a daughter, or one like a best friend, or like a brother, like an older brother. Like he's got all of the human relationships in one show, and it's just beautiful to watch. It is just incredible. Um, and then he does something so stupid, and you're like, man, I still love you. Yeah, I don't know. He, it's rare that you get a protagonist who doesn't ever frustrate you. Like you will watch him, and not once will you ever be like, this guy is so stupid. I never want, I don't want to see him again. Because I feel like a lot of the guys, especially D tier, is like that, where it's like these guys, please just do something. He never has those moments. Yeah, it's incredible as a character. How much of Jujutsu Kaisen have you watched?
Only season one. I haven't started season two yet. I know it's getting crazy. People like
It
it,
is
so
getting crazy.
um, I think he is kind of still in that like middle of the road.
Hmm.
So it almost feels like, I mean, from what I understand, a lot of people like the other characters that are around him more than him himself.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I feel like you could
Yeah,
probably put him like somewhere sandwiched between the JoJos. He
fair.
is kind of like, he kind of gets thrown into the position of, okay, suddenly I have powers and he has to like
Hmm.
make do with it. At the same time, he is kind of another one of those like quirky, energetic guys that like, is,
Hmm.
I don't know, just stereotypical shonen protagonist in a way.
I completely agree. And people are going to say like, "Oh, he suffered so much." It's like, yeah, but has he changed at all because of it, or what are his reactions to that suffering, interesting in any way? Like, it's just the same shonen protagonist you've seen, before. Like, I don't know. It is very much like the rest of the cast is interesting, and then he's there to support them. It feels like he's the supporting character, even though he's the main one. Um, he gets more later, but I would still put him in B, especially because like I feel like the top of B tier is a lot stronger than he is. But yeah, Mob. People are gonna say Mob's A
I'm gonna
tier.
walk away for just a second, so
You're good.
you can continue with Mob.
Yep, Mob is like top of B tier probably. I don't know. I put him above Luffy. Actually, no, I'll put him above Frieren because he grows as a character a lot because of all the characters around him. But a lot of that growth is very just, simple. Like he learns to express himself a little bit and kind of smile and be more open because of the people around him. And he becomes less naive as the show goes on, which I think gives him a little bit more depth um, because you get that range of emotions and that range of interactions with different people. And he starts building relationships. But there's not much more than that. Like he does kind of, you know, go through a lot of change, but it's only in the level of like high school boy comes out of his shell a little bit. It's not even like a massive amount of change. The world around him changes, to be honest, more than Mob does. And a lot of it's because of Mob, which I think is a good point in his favor. But I wouldn't say it makes him a super unique and interesting character, which I would
I
honestly
am
say the
back,
same
by the
for
way.
Goku. All right. So Mob, kind of high B tier because he does have growth, but it's very muted. It's like you see it, it's slow, and the changes are small, but they're deliberate, and he does have a good effect on the world around him. So I would say it's good, but it's not amazing. So the last time we recorded this, I put Goku pretty high just on based on principle. And y'all are gonna hate
Mm-hmm.
me, but I'm gonna put Goku in like top of C tier, maybe bottom of B.
Oh, I mean,
Because Goku,
you don't think he's better than Promise Neverland, Emma? No, we could
maybe.
move Emma down, I guess.
I would, so in terms of a protagonist, he's better than Jotaro. But Jotaro is featured in other parts of the anime, which make him
Mm-hmm.
better. Because Jotaro as a protagonist is he almost has a non-existent character. But after that, he vastly more interesting. Goku as a protagonist is more interesting in Dragon Ball than he is in Dragon Ball Z, at least because he's kind of naive and he grows more aware of the
Mm-hmm.
world over time. And because it's so long, you get a lot of time to be with him and get interactions from him. And he is a very entertaining person to watch. But he is so straightforward to the point of nausea. Like, I love him, and he does have a little bit of depth in that he's not like a hero for justice. He just kind of fights because he likes to fight, which is, I guess, more interesting in some ways. But he is not a high tier protagonist. Like, everyone loves all the characters around him more than they love Goku. Which is, yeah. All right. So, who is this girl with the explorer's hat?
So that's Kaban from Kimono Friends. Now, so you are a very well, I guess fluent in Japanese, right? Does Kaban mean bag in
Yeah, it
Japanese?
does. It does.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So I mean, I guess Kimono Friends, she is it almost is kind of like an isekai, I guess, in that they're like thrust into the world of where,
Hmm.
you know, have you heard of Kimono Friends at least?
I have.
Where
Yeah.
it's kind of like I guess, Gajinkified, animals.
Uh huh.
Um,
Yeah.
so Kaban is kind of like in this position to where she doesn't know like what kind of animal she is, which I mean, obviously she's a human, but
Uh
so
huh.
they end up going on a journey throughout. I guess it's called the park, and so it's kind of
Hmm.
like a zoo, and it almost is kind of like this child, like Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing where you kind of get information on what animals like what they do and stuff like that, but
Hmm.
at the same time they go on a journey across the park to get to the library, which is where they have information on all the different types of like species of people and
Hmm.
animals. And yeah, for like just from hearing that you think, okay, it's not really too interesting of a show. It is kind of more for like kids and stuff.
Hmm.
As this story kind of progresses, there's like a lot more like lore that kind of gets dumped. There's the introduction of, I guess it's like the enemies of, they're called the Ceruleans, which are these
Hmm.
like, like evil kind of like spirit things that are getting like spewed out from the volcano at the top of the
Huh.
park. And as that kind of like progresses, you start to like see like all these maybe like different, I forget what it's called, like kind of like voice recordings and like projections of videos and stuff of stuff that's happened in the past. And you kind of
Huh.
get the like collection of, this is almost like this what's it, like post-apocalyptic kind of deal to where humans like left the park because of certain things that happen. And as like
Hmm.
the story gets towards the end of like season 1, there is like a lot more kind of going on with like, I don't know, positions that Kaban's placed in to where she kind of has to suddenly be very mature and like do things. But even
Hmm.
throughout the whole show, she does like put other people first and is like pretty like resourceful being a human, that they're able to come up with like different kind of solutions, almost kind of like Dr. Stone in a way, where you're coming up with
Hmm.
various like inventions and whatnot. I think Kaban, it could be probably like somewhere in the middle of B tier, somewhere sandwiched in there. Maybe you could put her. I don't know. You could probably put her like. I mean, if you want to put her somewhere around Lloyd or like, yeah, like Itadori, that'd be fine, I
Okay.
guess.
All right. Sounds good. I'm down
Yeah,
for
I
that.
guess so.
All right. Yeah, I've only heard about it like through the grapevine, really. I know about like some of the animals like
I know
Bum,
that
Moose,
season 2 is
and
pretty
Lion.
bad, because they ended
Oh.
up switching like studios. They like fired the whole staff
Oh.
because I think the staff that did season 1 were like very um, passionate about the project, and then they ended
Huh,
up making like an OVA episode that
huh.
they didn't like go ahead and get the like the approval of the anime like what's it called,
The
not the
production people.
producers but the people that are above them. So then when they
Oh,
found
okay.
out, they're like, okay, well, you shouldn't have done that, so we're just going to fire the whole staff.
Whoa.
So then season two ended up being kind of like very different. I haven't watched it, but I've heard it's bad.
Hmm. Speaking of Saitama, honestly, overrated. He is interesting in that, he's kind of got like the whole dispassion, like the opposite, I guess, of passion, because of
Mm-hmm.
his, overpoweredness. But it's the same writer as Mob Psycho, but Mob is because he's a high schooler, he's an emotionally stunted high schooler. He's got more room to grow. Whereas I feel like Saitama doesn't. He's kind of the static character, and then the world changes around him because of
He's
him.
very one note.
Yeah,
I mean, it is called
exactly.
One Punch.
Yep, one punch, one note, and it's a comedy that's not, it's not trying to be. So
All
I would
right.
put Saitama at low C, above Issei, but below Seiya, because he doesn't really have a lot of depth, but I would say he's more entertaining to watch than Issei.
Yeah, that's
You know,
fine.
yeah. All right, so
I think that's a Kane from
Akane
Psychopaths.
from, yep, 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 yep.
Um, like I said, probably getting a bloated B tier. You could probably throw her in like maybe like the bottom of A tier. I feel like she is.
Yeah.
The whole show is that like she has the gun that will only shoot if it's like
Mm-hmm.
deemed to be like ethical
Yep.
based off of like the government, and
Yeah.
she kind of has to like figure out her way to circumvent the moral gray of okay, well, how strict is what the police force is telling her, and she can kind of see where her mind gets warped over the course of the series of okay, well, it's very like black and white to okay, these people are doing things that would otherwise be illegal, but at the same time they are
Mm-hmm.
human, and
Yep.
there's like that variance of like okay, well, they're not necessarily bad people.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. She's her interactions with the other main character, Kagami, is that his name? Can't
I have
remember.
no idea. It's been quite a while since I've watched Psychopaths.
Yeah, it's been a minute. But her interactions with him and then the main bad guy are, it feels like she takes a back seat to them a little bit sometimes, but she's
Yeah.
definitely the main character in terms of like she's our perspective. Like we watch the show through her most of the time. And she's the most reasonable and like not exposed to the system. Whereas all the other characters are very familiar with how things go. And she's also very inquisitive, like you say, like she's got to figure out how to do things in a way that she can be satisfied with against the system.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, she's really dedicated to the system and believes in it pretty wholeheartedly. Um, so I think it's very interesting to watch her grow. And just because of the nature of the show being more adult, she gets a lot more freedom to kind of deal with morality as a spectrum rather than as a black and white like hero villain kind of thing. Yeah, I would say she's pretty great as a protagonist. Um, but yeah, um, Maka, I would honestly put her above Luffy, uh, in my opinion, because most people have not read the manga. They've only watched the anime. If you're talking about anime Maka, she's like a low B tier. Um, B tier is definitely getting bloated, so I might have to move some people down. But I'd put her like probably above Luffy. Maybe not above Frieren. But she's very like stereotypical tsundere type character where she's like, she likes people, but she gets mad really easily, and will kind of berate people if they don't do what she wants, but only towards like certain people. To other people, she's super nice. But she's got this very straight-laced, dedicated aspect to her that is kind of turned around when she meets a character very much like Akane, where she's like questions whether what she's doing is right, and she doesn't really want to hurt this character, even though she knows that character has hurt other people. And she kind of gets almost infected by that. It's kind of hard to explain because Soul Eater has its own thing where your soul can get corrupted. Um, and then she has to deal with that for the rest of the show and kind of like battle her own inner darkness, both literally and figuratively. And then how that affects her relationship with other characters. Even though she's pretty straightforward, similar to Luffy, I feel like she does a better job of like making making for interesting character interactions and does a lot more growing um, personally. Yeah. Anyways, read the manga of Soul Eater. It's good, people. Don't believe what the anime tells you is the ending. It's not. Anyways, all right. Kiritsugu? Yeah. What do you think? Fate Zero.
Um, I'm trying to remember what we kind of said about him last time when we tried to record. I think he's a little. Yeah, I guess he is kind of like how I was saying with the doctor from Shiki, where he kind of puts people at risk in a way. He's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
like too like what's the word? Where he's just too focused on his own goals that he kind of is willing to. I mean, I guess in a way that makes him a little bit more nuanced. That he's willing to make sacrifices for what he believes in. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what you were saying, where he puts himself at risk a lot and kind of is
Mm-hmm.
like to where he's willing to sacrifice everything in order to achieve things.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, though, I think no, he's maybe. I personally don't like him as much as maybe you do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want to say,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I would put him
well, what do you
comparable
think?
to
I know
some of
you're
the.
the Fate Zero guy.
I love Fate Zero. I absolutely love Fate Zero. I think in terms of entertainment value, he is one of the most entertaining Fate protagonists, at least, if not um, more of the seinen anime. He's not that deep of a character, like of the more adult anime. Like he's not that deep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at least when you're watching the show, there is a lot going on there, but you don't really get that from just watching Phase Zero. Um, but yeah, I would say the fact that he is willing to do anything to achieve his goals, even at the expense of other people's lives, up until a point where he realizes, like, wait, I'm not willing to do anything if it means, killing his wife or daughter or killing like half the population to save the rest of the population from war, because his whole goal is to end like human suffering and war. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, he's like, I'm trying to
Well, he does have
remember.
that transformation between Zero
Mhm.
and Stay Night,
Yeah,
but I mean, Stay Night, he's not the protagonist. So,
yeah, exactly. I would still put him above probably below maybe the guy in Shiki. I've not watched Shiki. Um, but he's good. I would say he's very good. It's just he's not very likable.
yeah, I'd say they're pretty similar too.
Yeah, they're very similar characters. Yeah, I don't know. I gave Spike a hard time last time because I like Cowboy Bebop. It is a high quality show. I just don't think Spike is as good of a character as some other people think he is. Like most people probably would put him in A or S tier. I can maybe see the bottom of A or top of B because I've seen the show one time, which is probably not enough for a show that people say is like the GOAT. But
I have to wonder. Well, I haven't watched it, but from what I understand, people. really like Cowboy Bebop because that was like the first instance of anime having like a really good dub.
Yeah, it does
So I
have a
have to
very good
wonder how
dub.
much of that it like carries it.
I would say part of it, definitely. It's also very forgiving if you're like watching it week to week because a lot of the show is episodic, where it's like, separate stories all strung together until eventually they do
Uh,
resolve the overall plot, which I think is good in some aspects, but it's bad for Spike in terms of like depth of character. Like you get to see him in a lot of different interactions, but you don't get to see that much growth. Or like not growth, because not every character has to change for in a good way. But I mean like there's not a lot of change, or not even just change, but the interactions he does have are not different enough to make for a more well-rounded, experience. Like a lot of the interactions he has with the other characters are the same interaction, just in slightly different situations. But once again, I've only seen the show one time. So I would put him above at least all the JoJo's in Yo, maybe above Otokawa. The ending is much better, where he does have to kind of confront his past. Um, but yeah, I don't want to put him too high. And B tier is getting bloated, but yeah, I'll put him above Otokawa. I'll have to rewatch the show, and maybe my opinion will change. But yeah. All right, Senku. You've watched at least the first season of Doctor Stone, right?
I've watched 2 seasons. There
Okay.
is only two, right?
There's
I
three at
think.
least. There's at least three.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
Pretty
never heard
sure.
of the third season yet. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can go first, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I have read the manga,
Or
so I do know like the conclusion to his character. Um,
so you're a little biased in that opinion.
I would say he's a good character and he is very entertaining to watch, and he is the entire reason that the show works. Like because without him, the plot could not move forward, basically. But
Mm-hmm.
he is kind of a Mary Sue character where it's like, oh yeah, how do we make this thing? And then instantly, Senku's like, you need this, 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 and this, and then he makes a plan for it. So, I mean, it's interesting, and I think Senku is entertaining in that he kind of puts on this air of being a uncaring, super scientist guy who's only concerned with things that are empirically provable, like facts. Like not, he doesn't really care for emotions, but he's kind of just lying to himself in that way.
Yeah, I mean, every
Um,
once in a while you do see that like hint of like, okay, well, you know, he does appreciate the people around him and
mhm.
can make some sort of like emotional decisions.
Yeah, yeah. He'll always say like, "Oh, I'm making the most logical decision ever," and then it ends up with him saving everybody or minimizing casualties. Yeah. So I don't know. I put him above Yuji at least.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with how you were saying he's like a Mary Sue, where it is kind of like, I guess it's part of like the comedic effect of the show, and that he's
Hmm.
is kind of like, okay, well, how do I do this? And then he has to like kind of like flaunt his genius and be like, okay, well, actually, yes, I have the perfect solution already ready for that.
Yep. It's like he doesn't get everything handed to him physically, but mentally he's like, "Yeah, I've got the plan.
Yeah, to
This
where
is
the
what we got
show
to
kind
do."
of almost is made in a way to where everything will go perfectly, and maybe a little too
Hmm.
perfectly.
Yep. Agreed. And when things do go wrong, he's kind of got a plan for it. Um, but yeah, because of the nature of the show, it's kind of expected. It's just it doesn't make for him um, too deep, which is fine. It's more comedic for anyways. It's more of a comedic show anyways. But yeah, I don't know. Emiya?
Shiro Emiya.
Shiro
Um,
Emiya.
he's a little too like optimistic. Like his whole thing is that he wants to like save everyone without having any sort of like casualties or
Hmm.
without anyone suffering except for him, which is,
Yep.
I mean, I guess in a way, if I remember correctly, in Unlimited Blade Works, that's when he kind of realizes he can't do that, but at the same time,
Hmm.
he is a little too one note in a way.
Hmm.
And like he's very like unwavering. Like from where he starts at the beginning of the show all the way to the end, he pretty much
Hmm.
almost stays the same. Especially from I remember correctly in like Saber Route. So
Hmm.
I haven't watched what's it called, the Heaven's Feel. I've
Heaven's
been waiting
Feel.
to read that instead, but yeah.
Okay. So I will say he's different in Heaven's Feel, um, but he starts the same. It's tough to say. I wouldn't say it makes him too much of a more interesting character. I would say he focuses not on himself as much in Heaven's Feel, but he is just as self-sacrificing. He's just not as concerned with being a hero for everybody as he is in the other arcs. It's good though. Yeah, I would say he's pretty straightforward. Maybe above. I would put him above maybe Lloyd, or I don't know. I mean, like he does have
Um,
3 anime dedicated to him, but
yeah. If you want, we could put him closer up to like maybe where Frierin's at.
okay. Yeah, he does go through a lot. On in Heaven's Feel, I would give him that much. Yeah, I can say that. I can see that. All right, Kazuma. Have you watched Konosuba?
Yes, I have, although I haven't started season 3 yet.
Me neither. I'm waiting. Kind of want to binge it, but I think Kazuma is very entertaining as a comedy protagonist. He's kind of like the straight man to everyone else's absolute idiocy, which I very much appreciate. But I don't know if he's like deep though.
Yeah, I mean, he is kind of just there to be there for the comedy. I mean, he's
Hmm.
enjoyable to watch, but I guess in the same way, we could kind of like liken him to the No Game No Life in a way, in that
Hmm.
he is he does make decisions and moves the
Hmm.
plot forward, but at the same time, he doesn't really do anything like too incredible. Um,
Yeah,
and he's just like a fun character to watch, but isn't anything like too special.
yeah, I would agree. Yeah, he is entertaining. That's the best I can say about him, which is good for a comedy show. Like that's enough. Subaru, the Eternal Sufferer. Um, I'm not going to put him in C tier. I just could not accept it. But
Well, yeah,
we do
I was
need. What's up? I would say at
I'd be willing
least,
to put him in A tier,
yeah,
at least A tier. Yeah,
at least A tier. I mean, after
I mean,
after season one, he is so not annoying to watch, but it's so cringy watching him kind of like bumble his way through social interactions. But he grows
mm-hmm.
so much from it, and then season two is just so good. I don't know.
Now, what do you think about? I mean, 'cause I think I actually wouldn't mind putting him in S tier so far. So I
Yeah, S
think,
tier. Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want, we could keep him in A tier. I would say we don't have a whole lot in S tier yet. Um,
No, we don't.
Subaru, I like him. Um, he's very much like once he does kind of get over that, like, oh, I'm in isekai and I'm the main character and whatever I say goes, he
Yeah.
does end up being a very like down to earth kind of guy. He treats
Hmm.
people like pretty friendly, even upon
Yeah.
like first meeting them.
Yeah.
He is kind of in that way, almost close to Emiya, to where he puts other people ahead of him, but at the same
Hmm.
time, uh, you know, he kind of does it in a little bit of like a better way, I guess, because he tries to like I don't know. Maybe I'm saying something a little weird, but
Yeah.
the way he goes about it, in that he knows that things have to be sacrificed, but he does
Hmm.
everything he can, like regardless of how many times he has to die for it,
Hmm.
to try and like
Yeah.
make sure everyone's happy, regardless of whether he cares about them or not.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I definitely agree. I think he's, because of season two, where he's like, at first he tries to do everything by himself. And he's like, oh, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna get everything correct. I'm not gonna ask for any support because no one's gonna remember or believe me. He feels alone, just as a character, and very depressed, even though season two starts kind of on a good note, I guess, except for, Rem. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he starts finally accepting help and realizing he can't do everything himself, and he starts really like realizing that the people around him are important, not only in that they're important to him relationship wise, but they can also kind of support him in every endeavor he does. Like he doesn't need to be the hero. He can be a hero, or the part of the squad. I don't know how to explain it exactly. But he's like Emiya if Emiya was healthy, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. He's also a lot smarter than Emiya is, like in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
the depth of his personality. He's got a
Yeah, he
lot
does like
more.
do a lot of like careful planning.
Hmm.
And that's because of the fact that he does have the ability to like redo things. But
It is, yeah, yeah. It is funny if you they don't it doesn't really come across, I guess, in the sub. Um, but if you listen to his Japanese, he's very um, I would say friendly, but he's kind of rude. Like he talks to
yeah,
everybody the same
yeah, he kind
way.
of like talks down to him in a way, but at the same time he like does it in this kind of like, hey, I'm joking with you kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, we're friends. Like, we don't have to be all, fancy with each other. He does learn kind of more, he becomes more knightly at the end of season two and into the novels, which I've started reading. He starts learning how to at least be more formal when he needs to be, which is good. But he's
Mm-hmm.
kind of that guy. He's like, I'm going to force you to be my friend, kind of thing. Or like, I'm not going to let you suffer alone. He's going to try to take some of that suffering away from you, which I think is interesting. You know, I don't know. Yeah, S tier. I
All
accept
right.
it. Midoriya. Now I'm going to let you know I have read the manga and we are at the epilogue.
Okay.
So the end of his
Oh, so
character
it's
arc.
finally ending.
Yeah, which was not the case when we recorded this last time.
Oh,
But
interesting.
I wouldn't put him any higher. He is
Still kind of a
still
B
pretty
tier.
straightforward. Yeah, I'd still put him in B tier. He's pretty straightforward. He doesn't change all that much over the course of the show. He just becomes more confident, really. That's like the only aspect of him that changes, I would say. Do you have any thoughts on Midoriya from where you are in the show?
I don't know. I guess yeah. In a way, he is kind of still a little like you could tell that he's growing with each like following season, but even then, it's still not something to where I would say he's like particularly like stand out compared to a lot of the rest of characters, and even just like in Shonen, he is kind of a little bit too predictable.
Yeah, I would agree. I would put him right next to Lloyd somewhere, probably.
All right.
Probably above Lloyd, I guess, because Lloyd hasn't had that much time to do that
Yeah.
much.
And then we're finally almost down to the last row.
Oh yeah. All right. So Clanad. What is this guy's name? I cannot remember.
Tomoya, which is weird because then you have
Tomoya.
Tomoyo, which is the female.
Yep.
And I don't know
Best
why
girl.
they decided That was one thing I remember when I was even reading Clannad, is that people were like, okay, why is there like the main character has a name that's like one character off from one of the girls, and then also there's like three girls that all have purple hair, and two of them are twins, and it's
Yeah,
kind of easy to like get them confused.
yeah, that was definitely poor planning. But I do love Tomoyo. Tomoya
Or Tomoya.
is the main character. No, I love Tomoya, yeah, and Yo, but
Oh, Tomoyo, yeah.
Yo is best girl. Um,
Ooh, you gonna start an argument.
yep. All
Well,
right.
no, she did get her own game, so she is popular.
Ooh, it's true. Fair. All right. Tomoya though, I feel like he's pretty good. I would honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to putting him really high on B or maybe even low A. He's not that deep though. Um, it's just he's got a really big range of interactions because he's a visual novel character. He kind of
Hmm.
you really see a lot of different sides of him.
Would you say that you kind of like him more because he's kind of close to Yusuke, and then he's like the delinquent that kind of turns into the soft man?
Yeah, I would say he's kind of very similar in that way. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if
I
you
don't.
like him that much, we could put him in A tier. I do feel like he's almost a little reactive. He kind
Mm,
of does go with the flow a little bit too much until when Clannad After Story kicks in, which I know you haven't watched yet. But
yeah.
even then, he is kind of like to where he almost does let himself give up in a way, and then
Hmm.
doesn't really do things until he's kind of forced to. So that's why I would
Yeah.
almost say he's maybe not quite an A tier for me, but in a way he is very like fleshed out. So I feel like he could go in an A tier if we wanted to.
Yeah. I would say A tier or like maybe like top of B. Not maybe not top of B,
Mm,
but like third from the top.
somewhere up there.
Yeah,
I mean,
third from the
it
top.
almost sounds like he is kind of like Frieren too, where he doesn't really cherish the relationships he has until he kind of
Hmm.
realizes it.
Yeah, and I would say he's reactive in the same way Freerin is, where like she doesn't make a lot of decisions on her own. Um, though she does do stuff. It's not as clearly of her own will. You know. Yeah. I would say he's more
Right.
reactive than Freerin, but he's got more going on because his show
Yeah,
is
well, he
further
is a
along.
human that only has a certain amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we are on to
Ooh,
Madoka. What is her name
do
though?
you want to grab Madoka first, and then we could do Homura
Yeah, let's do Homer
right
last or
there?
after. All right, Madoka. Um, and she's got
So I
that
think
little
Madoka
demon
is she.
next
Yeah.
to her.
Would you like to make a contract?
Contract? No, no, I would not like to
So,
make
I
a
mean,
contract.
Madoka is like the poster girl. I
Mm-hmm.
guess in a
Mm-hmm.
way, though, she doesn't. She's almost just like an observer for a
Mm-hmm.
majority of the show. She
Agreed.
doesn't have any sort of like powers or anything, so she is kind of defenseless and has to kind of like fight other people with her words rather than her actions up until the very end when she does make it like a pretty sizable action. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I do think that she is maybe closer on the spectrum to like a C tier character because she is kind of, while I do value like her sense of like morals and how much she tries to progress the story, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean she doesn't even know that the story kind of like revolves around her, and I don't know. I just feel like she's like a decent protagonist, but not really to the point to where I mean she gets the spotlight like stolen out from under her until the very ending as well. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. C tier. She was entertaining, but she really kind of just served as the like our perspective for most of the show until the end. Um, um, all right, so C tier, probably.
C tier, I almost want to say she's probably better than the Emma, so we can maybe move Emma down to C tier if you want,
Okay,
and then put
yeah, I would, and then put Emma under Madoka. Where would you want to put Homura?
Homura. I feel like she is closer to a well. I don't know. I mean, we could put her high B if we want. We could put her A as well. I feel like she is
Hmm.
pretty like. Well, I don't know. It depends. You've only watched the first season. Well, only season. You haven't watched Rebellion yet. I
Yeah,
know
which
the
is a
the
movie.
movie that comes out after Rebellion. I don't think it's out yet in Japan, is it? I don't think I've heard anything. Um,
I haven't heard anything either.
Homura is kind of like this mysterious character that you have no idea, what her goals are and like what she's doing until the latter half of the season, where everything comes to light, and you kind of realize, okay, what she's been doing behind the scenes for everything. I do think she is way more like nuanced than Madoka. She is, in a way, I guess, like we were talking about with Rika, where she's going back in time in order to try and solve things. Um, then, like, also when we get into Rebellion, there is a certain point to where she develops even further, and depending on how you view it, that's either like a positive or a negative. And I
Hmm.
guess from here we can only really see where she's going to go in the following movie. So I guess at the time being, we could probably put her at like B tier.
B tier, maybe top of B.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay, I can see that. She does have like a lot of the she does have a lot of the like aspects of some of the other time travel protagonists, but she kind of has a lot going on. But at least in the first season, I didn't see a lot of that, like you said. So maybe after Rebellion, I'll be able to put her higher. But I can put her at the top of B. That's fine with me. All right. Do you want to tell me about Data Live?
Um, I guess I can go ahead and talk about Day Alive. So, what was the character you said? Oh, it was my hero, right? Where you said
Hmm.
since the time when we tried recording it the first time, things have changed. So,
Hmm.
Data Live season 5 is airing currently. So, I think we have like 3 more episodes left. I definitely have like a recency bias when it comes to Cheeto. So,
Hmm.
he is a protagonist. He's another hero protagonist. So you would think that he's not really too developed. But I do think like as each season progresses, you can see him change in how he becomes more comfortable with like what he has to do on a day to day basis. But then at the same time, he is I don't know, he's very like kind and caring about others, but at the same time, he is like I don't know. It is something to where I do like a lot of the stuff that has kind of happened with Shido, especially in the past current season and then also season 4, to
Hmm.
where things are getting really serious and he has to deal with things in like the best possible way he can. Um, I don't know. I feel like at the least I want to put him in an A tier.
Hmm. A tier at least. Okay. You want to put him at the
Yeah,
top of A tier?
yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, that's
I do like
acceptable to
Shido
me.
quite a bit.
I'm gonna have
Although,
to
like I
catch
said,
up.
I am biased right now.
Speaking of biases, let me talk about a show I have not watched in many years, but I remember this man's name, and he is probably the most reactive harem protagonist, Ichika. I feel like he is at least. I feel like the girls kind of run that show, and that show being Infinite Stratos. So what do you think about Ichika? I like from what I remember, I only watched the first season because I don't think I could even get through season two. Because it
No,
kind of changed the show a little bit.
well, they did introduce more people.
Yeah, they introduced the twins. I remember the twins being introduced. Which
Mm-hmm.
while pretty, I don't know how much it added to the dynamic. I don't know. It's been since like middle school, which for me has been over
That's a
10 years.
long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen this show.
What's crazy
So,
is that the story's still not even finished. I think they're still waiting on like the final volume of the
dang,
the light
dude.
novel.
It must have something going for it. So maybe I'm uncultured. I'd put him like
Perhaps.
at, at Issei's level, probably. D tier maybe. What do you I mean,
Eh.
do you find him entertaining?
I think he's. If I'm talking seriously, I want to say that he is. I mean, he is like the very stereotypical, like super dense harem protagonist.
Hmm.
I've heard some things that like the light novel is actually better and that it's more serious. But even then, I don't know. I mean, if you want my opinion, I almost feel like it could be kind of funny if we made a tier just for him between C and D.
Okay.
But no, I don't know. I mean, I guess he is kind of like a C tier character in a way. He is very reactive in a way.
All right. Ichika
There you go.
tier.
We got the Ichika tier.
New Ichika tier. All right. Hopefully,
To be fair, I actually do think he's better than Yuki.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
having him his own tier right
It
above
is not hard
D
to be
tier.
better than Yuki. Dude, I mean, I like that show is good, but he is so tiring to watch. Which, I mean, is good in its
He
own
has a
way, but
nice outfit though.
he
You can't
does,
lie.
the fit is pretty hard. The fit's good. I feel like it got picked out for him, but she's like, Yuki, you'd look good in this. And he's like, okay, I guess. Yep. No, yeah. Ichika deserves his own tier, between the two at least. Um, all right. I feel like Lelouch is at the minimum top of A, but I would put him in S tier because,
I mean, I would
I mean,
agree.
season two has problems. I'm not gonna lie, because of the way the production worked. They kind of had to reset a little bit of the story. It's a weird thing that happened, but I would at least put him in S tier because of the nature of like how tightly his character is written. Like you see him go through all kinds of different changes over the course of the show, make hard decisions, make self sacrifices. He has different aspects of relationships to different people, and those relationships change over time. And he has multiple facets to himself. Like he's got the exterior he shows to his friends at school. He's got what he shows to the knights, what he shows to C2, and what he only shows to himself. And then he's got a whole different side, which is what he shows to Nanali, or Nunali, I mean, his sister. So I feel like he's a multifaceted character, and his story has a very good arc and resolution, of course, having one of the best resolutions, I think, on this whole tier list, or if not any anime, really. But yeah, I'd put him above Subaru, at least. If not above, I would put him above Yusuke too.
I would too. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak about Mr. Gintama, but I feel like Lelouch is really high up there.
I'll put him above Gintoki. I don't know, man. They that's a good character, man. Gintoki is like, granted, he has like quintuple the amount of episodes that Lelouch has,
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of unfair in terms of like
Yeah.
depth of character. But
Yeah, that's fair enough.
since yeah, Gintama is
How many
90%
episodes
comedy
is
though.
Gintama? It's like a couple hundred, isn't it?
It's like 300, I think, and then in a movie. It's
Oh,
200 and
yeah.
something in a
Compared
movie,
to
I'm
like
pretty sure.
56, I think, with Kokias.
Yeah. With there are movies, I have not watched them. I've heard they kind of ruin it a little bit. But
Yeah, I haven't
dude,
watched the movie yet either.
I'm a big fan, so I might watch them anyways because I don't really trust anime opinions from the internet anymore. Uh, I'll put them above Gintoki. I love Gintoki though. Those two are interchangeable for me. They could be. It's unordered.
Swapped
It
out
is now
depending
on.
like how you feel on the day.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like if I have to rewatch a show all through its entirety, of course I'm gonna rewatch Code Geass because it's shorter. But if I just have to pick an episode to watch, I'm gonna pick a random episode from Gintama, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, this is the greatest show ever created, on the strength of those characters alone. Um, Gon, Now, Gon is, I feel like he's really well written, but he is kind of your typical shonen protagonist. People are going to say he's not. He is, but he's kind of that to an extreme, similar to Emiya, where he's like, I'm not a hero, but I am determined to accomplish my goal to an extreme. Um, his moral compass is very skewed, but in most other aspects of his character, he's a typical shonen protagonist. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? You've seen Hunter x Hunter.
Yes, I have. I mean, I read a little bit of the manga past that, but he wasn't even the
Okay.
protagonist at that point. I
Nope.
do like Gon as a character.
Hmm.
Um, I think it is maybe because, well, we're bringing in stuff outside of the scope of anime, but I feel like he kind of is closer to like that Rex from Xenoblade 2 in a way, where he is that like
Hmm.
overly like enthusiastic shonen protagonist, but at the same time,
Hmm.
sometimes you really do just want to see that. So I think Gon's
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Hmm.
I do think he is like a little too flat in character compared to some of the other ones we've ranked so far.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I think he does have a little bit more to him, especially as you get closer towards the end of like Chimera arc. He kind of
Yeah.
does flip at certain points to where
Hmm.
he's very positive and then he's like very like overly negative. So I guess in a
Hmm.
way, maybe he doesn't really have too much of like the in betweens to where we could say that maybe he's like really solid. And then in a way too, I'm trying to remember. I feel like he is kind of like a reactive character as well. And
Hmm.
he does have his goal of trying to like find his dad, but at the same time, it feels like a lot of the time there's other characters around him that are pushing the narrative more.
Hmm. I would agree. He's kind of like he accomplishes a lot of the goals himself, but
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't decide the path
On what those goals
by him.
are.
Yeah. Like he's like, I'm gonna become a hunter and I'm gonna find my dad. But like the reason he went to the Zoldyck mansion is because Killua got kidnapped. The reason he went to Heaven's Arena is because Killua told him we need to train. And the reason he went to New York or York New City, wow, York New City is because they all decided they were gonna meet up there again. And then his dad said, or gave him the save file for Greed Island. So then they both were like, let's go to Greed Island. And then from Greed Island, he's like, take me to my dad. And his dad was the one who changed the path and took him to Kite, which starts the Chimera Ant arc. So like he kind of gets pulled along, even though he makes the decision
Mm-hmm.
to go be a hunter by himself. After that, a lot of the decisions he makes don't necessarily decide the path he goes down, but he is the factor that makes the path possible. Like he doesn't ever get, you know, he doesn't ever make it through on other people's kindness alone. Like most of the time, he is doing it on he's accomplishing his goals, which I appreciate. But yeah, I feel like people give him too much credit because of the story he's in, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Togashi writes a lot of parallels with him. Like, people say Meruem, becomes a man while Gon becomes a monster. They kind of reverse.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I do remember that, especially in I think it's the ending for that part of the anime where it shows like the
mhm.
different coins or something. Or
Yeah.
it's not coins, I think it's like checker pieces. And when it
Yep.
shows
Yeah.
Meruem, it's like a white checker piece, whereas when it shows Gon, it's like a black checker piece.
Yeah. The the Gunyi pieces. It's like a game
Or
he made
Shogi,
up.
yeah, or whatever it's called.
But yeah, I would agree. Like it's because of that dynamic that he's interesting and the fact that, like you said, he goes downhill, but he definitely does not have like the wide breadth of some of the other characters. He's got very interesting interactions, but there's not like, you know, it's not super deep.
Well, yeah, even if we compare him to Lelouch, Lelouch has that similar kind of metaphorical, where Lelouch and Suzaku, where Suzaku is the white knight for like a chess piece, and
Hmm.
Lelouch is the dark knight.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like they're opposites who kind of have to butt heads along the path and kind of almost they switch places a little bit over time, um, in a way. Um, but I would say Lelouch is more active, which is
Mm-hmm.
fine. Like there are good reactive characters, and I would say Gon is a very good reactive character. Um, top of maybe bottom of A, top of middle of B. I don't know. It's tough.
Mm, I mean, you can put him at bottom of A. That's fine.
Yeah, I would say bottom of A because of the nature of the show. I would say he's very good. All right, so I recently restarted Black Clover. I would say Asta's he is if Gon is the typical shonen protagonist taken to an extreme, Asta is just the typical shonen protagonist. Um,
Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure he
Yeah,
changes over
he
time.
starts as very typical. I mean, in a way, I remember. I think I watched like 100 something, like not more
Hmm.
than probably like 110 episodes. I stopped somewhere around that point. He does get a little better.
Okay.
He starts to like flatten out and become a little bit more serious, and but even then, he still is very much like the same character he starts out as. So in a way,
Hmm.
yeah, anything you want to say, if he's like somewhere middle of B tier or like bottom of B tier, that's probably fair enough.
Okay.
I mean, if you're saying
Cool.
Deku gets a little bit better as it
Yeah.
progresses, Asta kind of stays the same.
Asta kind of stays the same. All right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put him in maybe a little above. Actually, I'm gonna put him just because Jotaro is not a good
I feel like
character,
I
and
like him
his
more than Kaguya.
okay.
But I mean, you
I can
said you
accept
liked
that.
Kaguya too, but
I like Kaguya a lot, but I also like Kaguya mostly because of her interactions with the you know the president. So I don't know.
hmm
If he was on here, maybe I should have put him on here. I feel like I would have put him higher, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's acceptable. That's an acceptable spot for me. Aaron Yeager. All right. So if Lelouch is a good character all the way through and then he ends really strong, Aaron is like a super mid character for 90% of the show who ends pretty strong. Not really strong. I have a lot of problems with the ending of Attack on
depending
Titan.
on whether you view it as like a positive or a negative.
Like I enjoy the twist somewhat, but I also think it's not that well written. Like it's okay.
hmm
Like if the show had gotten canceled halfway through season 4 after the big twist, and we didn't know what happened after that, I feel like I would have liked him more. Um, yeah, as a character,
Oh, that's an interesting
as a,
take.
not as a person.
I
Like as a person,
hmm
I don't like him. As a character, he's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, he's interesting. I think it's because like the first 3 seasons, he is kind of that. Well, he has his goals, and he
Yeah.
wants to eliminate all the Titans or whatever. But then, in a way, because he joins the military, he kind of does. He's just like the dude that follows orders for
Yep.
like those first 3 seasons. To where, yes, he's like the founding Titan or whichever one it is, the original Titan, where he
Yep.
is like the main character. A lot of stuff revolves around him, but at the same time, he
Hmm.
is following everyone else's orders. And then once he kind of breaks off from that, and we get into season 4 and how he kind of flips, the
Yeah.
switch flips, and he starts going on his own path. That's when we would be able to decide, okay, is he more of a like a really like I mean he's definitely nuanced,
Yeah.
but
I would say so.
is he like a pretty interesting character?
I can put him in A tier. I would accept that.
A, A tier sounds fine. I mean, a lot of people do like Aaron Yeager. I do like the like idea of him. I just don't think it was like as well executed as it probably should have been.
Yep. Agreed. Oh, the program is
But that's
decided.
S. You put him in an S instead of A.
I know. It's decided. I did not make that decision. I will move him down as soon as it allows me to.
Yep.
Um, he's
All
very
right.
sticky. For some reason, he wants to stay there. He might have to stay there.
I mean, that sounds about right.
Um, yeah.
Who do we want to do next? Do you want to do
Um,
Mr. Mushoku Tensei?
ooh, okay. Yeah. Rudius. So I started the second half of season two finally, and Rudius is goated. By the way, he's great. He's a very good character. As a person, at first I did not like him, and
Yeah,
now
he was.
he's just a sleazeball, honestly, at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, right now, I mean, and even in the first season, he is just the level of characterization, like growth that this man goes through, the trauma he overcomes and stuff, especially, but also like the way he learns to make relationships with people. It's like it's similar to Mob from Mob Psycho. If Mob had a little bit more of a normal traumatic experience, because Rudius, I feel like, has a more realistic trauma than Mob does. Mob's is kind of due to his powers, whereas Rudius's is due to his life. Um, yeah, I would, man, it is a short show so far. There's more to come, but watching him interact with his like new family and kind of live and learn like what it means to be not only in like a loving relationship, but like in a family, to be in a society, to be a part of, something greater than himself, and to care on a level that he's never really done before, and even just to leave the safety of his own home. It's a beautiful thing to watch. I would put him uh above Ippo at least right now after season two part one, because I only started season two part two recently. I wouldn't put him super high yet because he's got more ways to go, but and because I think it's also because we get all of his thoughts. That's a very strong addition to a character when you kind of like you not only get to see how they interact with people, but you also get like what they're thinking about when they're doing it. You know, they get the internal monologue. I don't know. Yeah, I would just put him in high
It
in the
sounds like I
mid.
need to continue season two.
It's good. It's good, man, dude. He deals with one of the realest troubles of any anime protagonist in season two, and you're gonna laugh. I laughed pretty hard, but it's so tragic. And man, you feel for him. You're like, oh man, Rudius, he's going through it. That's my man. But yeah, it's good. I would say season one is better overall, but season two is more. It's more character. It's more like just him, which is good. Anyways, it's
And
just
if you
I don't want to
want,
spoil
maybe
it.
do the two that I can't really talk on.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. What, Gurren Lagann?
Yeah, Simon from Gurren Lagann he's pretty reactive for half of the show, and then he slowly becomes like the guy who makes the decisions. Um, Problem is, Gurren Lagann lives and dies on hype. Like it's a show that the whole purpose of it is to kind of get you hyped up and to like believe in yourself. That's like the whole idea of the show is to believe in your ability to make things happen. So I wouldn't say he's a very deep character overall, but he does go through a great amount of change and becomes more interesting over time. So I would put him like between Kiritsugu and Yo. He's pretty good. Yeah. And Natsu from Fairy Tail is somewhere in C tier. I never finished Fairy Tail. I got to the end of like the Fairy Guild Coliseum thing tournament arc, which was good. But Natsu's very straightforward. Shonen, typical shonen protagonist. Actually, I'm gonna put him lower. He's probably in, yeah, middle bottom of C, mid bottom of C. All right. So familiar zero. What is this man's name?
Saito.
Saito. Okay. All right. Where's Saito going? I
So
remember
what do you
familiar
remember?
zero, but only very slightly.
Only like the ending, huh?
Yeah.
So I think Saito is a pretty solid protagonist. I
Yeah.
like that he kind of starts out like a lot of the stereotypical like shonen slash isekai protagonists, in that
Mm-hmm.
he is the guy that wants to protect everyone but do it without any sort of like casualties. But then
Mm-hmm.
as the main like difference between Familiar Zero and a lot of these other shows is that there is like a changing point to where Saito kind of realizes he ends up going to war and is able
Yeah.
to see for himself that you can't do it all on your own, and that like there is going to be he ends up realizing that there is going to be losses, and that he has to kind of be able to like come to terms with that. And
Yeah.
then also at the same time, he realizes that he is also going to have to be the one to take lives at some point in order to
Mm-hmm.
like protect the ones that he cares most about.
Yeah.
So I actually think he is probably like more of an A tier character. I like him. He does change a lot
Okay.
throughout the course of the 4 seasons. And I do remember
All
that.
right.
Well, if you remember the ending, I like the ending as well.
I mean, I remember. Yeah, I remember the ceremony thing, but I don't want to spoil it. But yes,
Oh, I think that was season 2.
was it? It happened really early.
I believe
The,
so.
and then there's the war
I
arc.
kind of want to rewatch it at some point too.
Yeah, me too. It was good. I remember it being good. Above Akane, above
I guess that's fair.
Rubius.
He kind of is kind of in that same boat as Akane, to where it is like the realization of like deciding what's like black and white compared to
Hmm.
how you would deal with things like morally.
Yeah. All right. So I put Killua on
Yeah,
here
we're getting down to it.
because he's kind of a protagonist, I guess. He leads one of the arcs on his own.
Yeah, I guess in
Um,
a way he's kind of like Homura, but although I would say Killua is a little bit less of a main character, but
yeah, yeah. He's only got one arc where he's kind of the main dude, and it's short.
mm-hmm.
Um, I think Killua's got a lot of growth through Gon, but because he kind of has a backseat to Gon most of the show, even though he does get a lot of moments, you don't get to see as much of it. He has a big change that comes during the Chimera Ant arc that makes changes him not only as like emotionally, but also just like how he um, goes about life when he kind of severs his connection to his brother. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't say he's super deep. He's just a very well-rounded, likable character. So I'd put him like right next to Luffy probably. I like him though.
All right. Aaron still doesn't want to move.
Aaron does not want to move. I want him to move. Aaron, you're gonna move, dude. There he goes. Let's go.
Oh,
I don't know
he
where he
went to
went.
B tier.
Hey, that's acceptable.
He's in B tier right next to Kiritsugu.
The very fitting. No, all right. There he goes. He's at A tier now. I can accept him being above
Jumping
Akane.
around.
All right.
All
Aaron's
right.
using the founding titan. All right. Anyways,
Last two.
Ed, have you seen Full Metal Alchemist?
How do you not remember?
I don't
Yes, I
remember.
have.
Okay.
I mean, not the
It was one of
original,
your first
but
shows,
Brotherhood
right?
I have. Yes, it was.
I thought so.
So it's been a while. It has been a hot minute since I watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I
Same.
do think, if I remember correctly, what we were talking about last time we tried to record it is that Ed is a little. He starts strong, so he already kind of doesn't fluctuate that much, but it's like
Hmm.
he's already like a really like solid character throughout. You can see the moments where he kind of does dip and he has to. I don't know if you can hear that. Uh,
Yeah, you're good.
or not.
I heard it.
Hopefully
That's
we're
fine.
good.
Don't worry about it.
Uh, what was it? You can see the moments where he kind of has to like where he like dips emotionally and he has to kind of
Hmm.
like pull himself back out. I don't think it's like as frequent as maybe some of the other characters we have on the list, but I still think he's pretty solid. Maybe closer to like an A tier, unless if you want to put him in an S.
I would put him at least in A tier. I'd put him like a maybe below Data Live guy. I don't know. What's his name?
But do you think he's better than what's it called? JoJo? I was gonna
I
say you
think
could
he's
put him
better than
maybe above
Joseph.
Rika.
I'd put him above
Oh,
Joseph.
all
Maybe
right.
Rika might need to move above Joseph. I don't know. Joseph's good though. Joseph is I put him there almost purely based on entertainment value. Like he is a wizard at being entertaining.
All
But
right, but what
yeah,
do you think about Ed?
I like Ed. But I agree. He kind of starts already developed pretty well because he's already kind of gone through everything, and he's got a really healthy connection to his brother and the the Rockbells who kind of took him in after they lost their parents. Um, but he definitely changes in that I feel like he becomes less angry at the world over time. Like he becomes more willing to let people into him and his brother's secret and inner circle and kind of share the weight of that crime because it is a crime in their world. Um, and like what it means to try to find a solution to it. Um, and he becomes a little deeper too in the same way Akane does, where he realizes like, you know, just because I live in this country doesn't mean everything this country does is right. And he kind of realizes like, we're hunting down Scar, but that doesn't mean Scar is evil. Like Scar is just this war, essentially this war refugee who's trying to take down a regime that destroyed his people. Like so, uh, Ed, I feel like gets carried a little bit by the characters around him, but he does do a good amount of growth on his own, and he at least in the way he understands the world, he's not one note. Like he doesn't think of everybody as groups of people. He thinks of everyone individually and kind of has his own relationship with them that way. Whereas I feel like if I look at, some of the guys in B tier, they kind of see like swaths of good and bad, or even if they see gray, they see like they don't see the depth of character that Ed does. I don't know. I feel like Ed's more he's a little bit more of a person than the other people are, if that makes sense. Yeah, I've definitely given him too much credit because he does only have like a 60 episode show, but yeah,
Well, I wouldn't
he's
say
very
only 60. I mean, considering nowadays, a new anime series drops and it's 12 episodes, and then you wait like a year and a half for the next season.
true, fair, very fair. Yeah, yeah, I think Ed's good though, and he's also I feel he's smart. He's really smart. Like people forget how smart you have to be an alchemist in the first place, and even among alchemists, like he's very talented. So even like tactically, even though he acts a little bit like an idiot, he does have that aspect of himself in both fights and in character interactions where he'll play up the idiot part just to take someone by surprise, um, which I think is an aspect of his character that's very similar to Joseph, who's right beside him. I just think Ed, in terms of the depth of character, is a little bit deeper. Yeah, I don't know. All right, Now I'm going to argue this is our last S tier, Okabe. Um, what do you think about Okabe having seen Steins Gate Zero? Off of Steins Gate alone, I would put him in S tier because of like the the vast amount of change he goes through so rapidly and just purely
Mm-hmm.
on entertainment value, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he's very entertaining. So you haven't watched Steins Gate Zero, so he has like almost like both sides of him between both of those different stories. You see that more like down to earth side of Okabe every once in a while in main Steins Gate,
Hmm.
but that's kind of taken to the extreme in Zero. I like how he does kind of have that like different facade to where he kind of like deep down he harbors these kind of like darker like emotions, but he hides it
Hmm.
under the like the mask of being the evil scientist.
Yep.
And when things go wrong, he has to do everything he can to make it right. Um, I don't know. I like Okabe in both inclinations. I do
Hmm.
think he is pretty like nuanced and that he is entertaining as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Like the they call it a chunibyo, which is like where it's
Mm-hmm.
called middle school sickness, where you kind of obsess with fantasy and believe you're a main character. But he doesn't
But
actually
then
have it. He's like,
yeah, he puts it on because of Mayuri. It's
yep,
his like coping mechanism to like kind of like boost Mayuri's like morale
yep,
because he's not doing it for himself.
hmm, yep. Which I think is just like another level of, like you said, like he puts that mask on. Similar to Subaru, I feel like Subaru also does that, where he'll put on a brave face for most of the people around him, even though he's like just destroyed emotionally on the inside, having gone through all that suffering. They have a very similar character arc in that way. Whereas I feel like Okabe kind of starts out a little bit more complex than Subaru does. Subaru
Hmm.
gets up to that level and you know pretty quickly, but
Well, with Subaru, we start his journey from the beginning.
yeah,
Okabe, we already started like maybe not at the midpoint, but like somewhere past the starting line.
yep, agreed. Would you agree S tier? I would say so.
I would agree. Yeah, I was gonna say otherwise he's like sitting right next to Shido, but
Yeah,
yeah, I do think he's an S tier worthy character.
yep. That's my Dr. Pepper loving mad scientist. I love him. Well, we've somehow made it through 70 characters. It's been probably
After
two
how long?
hours, at least two
Oh
hours.
yeah, I'm at 240 on the recording, but yeah, in between we're probably a little
Yeah, there's a little bit to
underneath it.
cut out. Yeah. Do you have any
Yeah.
characters you want to move? I'm pretty satisfied, to be
Hmm.
honest.
I feel like we are pretty good. I'm trying to glance through it real quick. Um, no, I guess I'm fine. I mean, I'm gonna take your word from Mr. Mushoku Tensei.
I like him a
I
lot.
think, well, yeah.
I
So it
think,
sounds like he gets a lot better. I mean, he does start like really low,
yeah,
but
he
then
starts
I can
really low.
tell by the end of season one that he was starting to get more matured in that way, even though he probably should have already been mature, considering he was like he's like a 40-year-old inside of the like a
Yeah.
12-year-old's body.
Yep. You would think, right? You would think so. He gets a reality check pretty hard, which I think helps him out. Um, but I think it's just the fact that he starts out so low, and even though he's really flawed by the end of season one, even
Mm-hmm.
like in the middle of season one, like when they do the demon continent thing. I don't know if you're there. Um,
Oh, the thing where they get like attacked.
they get yeah, yeah. At that point already, I feel like he's
Yeah, that's kind of like a wake up call, and you can see
mhm,
that he kind of has to like emotionally shift and be like, oh wait, this isn't just a game.
yeah, this is serious. Like this is life. Like people, these are people that can live and die, and I have the ability. if I am willing to, you know, make the decision that might save their life. And not only that, but he's like struggles with the inability to change anything, which is I feel like one of the things he couldn't do as an adult. Like he just accepted that he couldn't change anything, whereas in this situation he can change stuff, and he has to basically like face reality a little bit more harshly when he cannot, and then still, despite not being able to change something, keep moving forward. Um, I think, yeah, I would put him in A tier almost entirely because the whole show is dedicated to him growing as a person. Whereas I feel like a lot of the other shows, it's like the world kind of is its own character, and like, you know, a lot of the other characters are kind of getting their own story. I feel like Mushoku Tensei, while there are other characters growing, like what's her name? My goodness, the red-haired girl. I cannot remember her name. Wow, she's not in season two. That's why I don't remember her name. But she gets her own character arc. But because he's narrating it internally and externally, interacting with other people, it's like super focused on his development. Um, Kind of similarly to Okabe, where I feel like it's very hyper focused on him and his like path. Anyways, yeah,
All
middle of
right.
A tier.
Mhm. So I think we're good on the tier list then.
All right,
Took us a
acceptable.
while, but we finally
Yeah,
got through it.
yeah, we finally got through it, and hopefully we've got everything all together on the recording. I'm gonna tell people right now,
Yeah.
I'll be posting stuff more often because I'm off for the summer. But also, Wave just posted actually a bunch of new videos, but especially a new video on visual novels, which are not a dying
Well, they're
medium,
all
but will
about visual
disappear.
novels.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, if you guys are maybe of that, kind of group, maybe you played Steins Gate, or maybe you're a Higurashi fan. Uh,
Mm,
Go ahead and, if you're interested, check out my channel. Hopefully, it'll be down below,
yeah,
and hopefully, you guys enjoyed the video.
yeah. All right, guys. Catch y'all later. Adios.